All right, good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. It is 7:01, and we just want to honor everybody's time here. We believe time is your greatest asset, and we just want to get the meeting started. And just thank you guys for choosing to spend your time here with us. I'm excited because tonight, Westside Meetup hosted by WNN Properties. And before we start, I did want to go over a couple housekeeping items, if you will. So first of all, this meeting will be recorded just in case you wanted to watch it again, or if you wanted to share it with some friends. It'll be posted to our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. Second, I just want to ask if everybody could please put your microphones on mute to minimize distractions for our guest speakers tonight and just for everyone else to make it an enjoyable experience. Yeah. Third, if you guys have any questions, please throw them in the chat, and we'll get to the questions at the Q&A portion of our presentation. And lastly, don't forget, after our formal presentation, we're going to be going into breakout rooms to do some networking. So please stick around for that. I also did want to mention that I'm going to throw into the chat a form for you guys to fill out, and it's kind of like a roster. And if you fill it out, you just put in your name, whatever contact information you'd like to input, and then either something that you're struggling with, something that you're working on, or something that you can offer the community. Westside Meetup is all about networking and connecting people to each other. So when you have a moment, go ahead and fill that out. And know that if you fill out that form, you'll be able to get everybody else's information who fills out that form. If you don't fill out the form, you're not going to be sent that roster. So just something to take note of. All right. Another thing I wanted to encourage you guys to do is if you don't already, please like our Facebook page, join our Facebook group, Westside Real Estate Meetup, and also get onto our email list if you aren't already, because through that email is where you get updates on when the meetups are happening, if we have any other events happening, and just general information. So I'm going to throw all of that into the chat right now. All right. Now, if you guys don't know, my name is Brandon Rabe. I'm one of the co-hosts for tonight's meetup. And as a brief introduction of myself, I'm a buy and hold investor buying multiple properties out in the Midwest. I'm leveraging friends and family to partner with me to go out and purchase these properties. I'm also a full-time W-2 delivery driver. So I do that throughout the week. And I still have 2 young kids at my house with my wife. So I stay pretty busy. And I also do personal development coaching. So that's just kind of a brief info or brief bio of myself. And tonight I'm not alone. I got my trusty co-host with me this evening. And Gil, I really appreciate you being here tonight. So what's up, man? How you doing?
How's it going, Brandon? Thanks for that intro. Yes, good to be here at the Westside Meetup as usual. Love it. Love this community that I'm in. You know, real estate investor, bunch of real estate investors. So yeah, for those of you that don't know me, that are new here, my name is Gilbert Kalama. Like Brandon, I do out of state investing. I invest in the Midwest. Kansas City, Missouri is where I'm currently prioritizing my investing. And I also work a W-2 job at Hawaiian Electric. So keep me in mind when you're plugging in your iPhones. But don't blame me when the power goes out. All right. So that's my job. But yeah, just getting into real estate, implementing the BRRRR strategy, right? To, you know, one day hopefully retire sooner rather than later. I'm using it as a bridge, so hopefully I can retire early, right? Leave that W-2, like most real estate investors, right? So for tonight, to keep with the theme of Westside Meetup, which we've been doing here, because it's Halloween, right? Halloween's right around the corner. We'd like to talk about some horror stories that has gone on with our special guest here. So our special guests are the definition of go-givers, right? I know them from the Hawaii Sub 2 Accountability Group, and I'd like to introduce them. So the first set of speakers, power couple Tristyn and Kamohai. So they are husband and wife team navigating real estate with a passion for helping people, right? Hence the go-giver mentality there. They're born and raised in Kailua and have two little keiki, Yasiel and Vale. I hope I didn't mess that up, guys. Sorry. They both come from entrepreneurial backgrounds, right? Kamohai previously ran 3 men's surf-inspired apparel brick and mortar stores. Tristyn founded and operates a nonprofit organization, Kokua Support Services, which specializes in behavioral health services statewide. They've been in the REI game for 3.5 years, and they own 2 companies, TK Property Solutions and the Fear Home Buyers. So I hope I did that a little justice, and I would like to bring on Tristyn and Kamohai to talk about, I believe it's the first ever flip in the real estate world here, investing world. Tristyn and Kamohai, how you guys doing?
What's up?
What's up, you guys? Is the volume good? Can you guys hear us? Nice.
Yeah. Thanks for having us. And yeah, we hope that everyone learns from our first flip, because it was a horror story. It was a nightmare.
Yes, it was. Everything that probably could have gone wrong went wrong. So it's a cautionary tale, but we hope that by sharing some of the things that we went through on this very first deal, that it will, give you guys some heads up, and then also show you that it's okay and you can push through all of those issues, right? Things will always come up, but there's better things on the other side if you keep going and being consistent.
Yeah, don't give up. Go for it.
Okay, so we have the kids here. Sorry, it's
This
but
is real life. Hashtag real life.
Yeah. So 3.5 years. We've been in it. Oh, hold on one sec. There we go.
Did it do that?
Yeah, so it was our first property. We bought it off the MLS. It was on Oahu. The lead up to the story was good. We were, brand new, getting into it, like hunting for our first deal. We were putting in about an offer.
We were putting in, we were hungry, right? So when we were only buying deals off the MLS. So we were putting in 1 to 3 offers a day. And on the specific day that we went to go see this property, it was the last one on the schedule. And I think we looked at 10 that day. So we saw this property in the dark, literally with flashlights in the dark. So I don't advise anybody to do that. Rule number 1, don't go look at properties in the dark, because you don't know what you're buying. So, and of course, the last one we see that we really can't do much, see the condition of it, is the one we get. So we get the call the next day that we got the property, and we're like, oh my God, we're so excited. And then we go back to the property the next day, and it literally was so bad. So what we didn't see.
Oh, seems like they froze up on us here. Okay.
Sorry. And the termite eaten, the foundation was termite eaten. It was floating. It was terrible. And it was so bad. The foundation was so bad that when I was walking in the house, I got sick and dizzy because it was so bad. The house was like this. So that's all the stuff we didn't see in the dark that we actually got. So of course you do your due diligence, and you do your inspection. Obviously the inspection comes back and says, oh, the foundation's really bad. You're like, I know that, but what do I do about it? So we we had a foundation specialist come out and he was like, this is probably like 20 grand. You just have to, lift up the house, replumb it, set it back. So we start the work on the house, we close on it, and we start to do that. And our contractor is like, no, this soil is no good. Like, I think you should get a second opinion. And because that's not, you can do that, but you're gonna, in 5 years, the foundation's gonna move again, is basically what he said. If you just replumb the house and level it and set it back. So we're like, well, what do we do? So we get this other foundation specialist out who turns out to be like his friend. And he's like, no, this is adobe soil. Adobe soil is a nightmare because he can explain it better than me, but basically it expands and it contracts, and it expands and it contracts. It's constantly moving. So what do you think your house does? And so what we had to do was dig down 3 feet under each post and backfill it with coarse gravel, and then pack it down so that it doesn't move, and then set the posts and beams on top of that. So that was another like $30,000 to $35,000 on top of what we already budgeted for the house. And we could have just set it and forget it and stayed on budget, but we're the type that if you're going to do something, you need to do it right, because the last thing you would want to do is sell that house to somebody and then they have to deal with the foundation problems. They just bought a brand new house and a couple years later, they're in the same situation. Like, that just does not sit right with us. So we ate that overage, and we did that. And it basically cost us, like I said, $35,000 and another 2 months. Cause I mean, there were guys underneath the house. The crawl space was only like 2.5, 3 feet.
Yeah, small.
Having to dig down under like 20.
It was 36 piers.
Yeah.
So it was,
yeah.
I mean, probably the worst thing that could have happened rehab wise was that foundation. So it's always good to double, triple, quadruple check that. And that's a learning lesson. The first one that we really had.
Be wary of adobe soil. And it's all over Kaimuki. So just be wary of adobe soil, that you might have to do a little extra foundation work if that's the type of soil that your house is on. Our contractor was a nightmare. You don't know what you don't know. And he was a referral, so we didn't think much of it, but it just turns out he was more of a handyman, not more of a contractor. And so a lesson there is to trust, but always verify. And it's okay to be naive, but ask questions. And that's what we didn't do. So we ended up firing him, not on this job, but on the next job. So on top of dealing with the foundation issues, we were dealing with a contractor that wasn't up to par, I guess I would say.
I would say, so we vetted him. He was a referral, but one thing we never did was like walked any of his other jobs. Like, yeah. I think that would have been a good indicator. Come to find out, he was not licensed. He was using someone's license.
Yes.
So we never looked into that either, which we should have done for sure. And then it was his first full residential rehab. So that was never told to us either, right? So yeah, literally everything that, I mean, you have to not only vet, but like look at their license number, make sure that it's under their name.
Yes.
And yeah, walk some of their properties like that they've done in the past. That would have saved us there for sure.
Luckily, I have very skilled brother and Hanai brothers that kind of saved our ass and came in and like saved the day, because if it wasn't for them, kind of like we would have went longer and more over budget on the renovation. So always tap into your network and your resources when you can. On top of that, when we chose to go and sell the house, like when we were done, guess what happened? COVID happened. we literally, Oahu shut down within the week that we listed the property for sale. So everyone got scared. There wasn't really a lot of activity, I think, for at least a couple weeks. You know, people were scared. Banks were pulling out. Hard money lenders kind of dried up. Like, the world went into chaos for a little bit. And that's right when we listed. So we sat on the market longer than we wanted to sit on the market. So a lot of our profit margin was ate up. We couldn't list for what we wanted to list for because everyone was scared. They weren't overpaying for properties if they were even buying at that time. So then on top of all that, we got hit with a violation.
We're totally done with the project, like going to market, get to our PO box one day and there's a DPP violation. Mm-hmm. So apparently DPP was watching this house before we bought it. Yeah. They had been having some complaints about overgrown grass. And so they had somebody going out and looking at the house periodically. Right. And just so happens, he came out and looked at it right before we were going to list. And he went under the house and saw the foundation and the extensive foundation that we had done. So initially, we weren't going to do that, right? You guys know we had to end up doing that to make sure that we're turning over a good product. And because we changed all the posts out, we're technically considered a brand new build. So if you touch a certain amount of posts, you have to get the correct permits for that.
I believe it's 30% or more of the posts. If you touch them and replace them, technically DPP in Hawaii will deem your property as a brand new build. So whoever we sold that house to, they got a brand new house in yeah. DPP's eyes. So that was a huge process and a learning curve to get a violation on a property and having to go through the channels of DPP and pull permits and get, you know,
draftsman in there, architect. Yeah. They drew the whole house and we had to submit and go through that whole process.
The house was done on the market already. So that also delayed escrow because it's really, really hard to sell a house if there's a violation on the property. So that was our first experience flipping a house in Hawaii. It was just like sucker punch, then drop kicked in the face, and then kick you again while you're down. And we wouldn't change it for the world. Like straight the F up. We talk about it today and we're like, we are so glad that we went through all of that on our first deal because we learned so much. We learned like, I think as much as you could possibly learn on.
But I mean, we learned so much. We gathered like invaluable contacts.
Yeah, relationships.
Yeah, being forced to go through these situations. I think we would have felt a little different about that if we hadn't bought the property right.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, we bought it where the numbers worked and we bought it with enough of a margin that after all of that stuff, we still didn't lose money. Right. We made like 15 grand or something on that first one.
Something like that.
But I mean, it's a testament to making sure you're running your numbers and being conservative. And even though you get hit with like a $40,000 overage, if you're buying it correctly, you're still going to be okay. Right.
Right.
So we say our first flip, it was a nightmare. Like you should have,
so
Tristyn and I
crying, freaking out. What did we do?
Yeah. Like, why did we start doing this? Yeah. Like, this is not.
I'm just going to go back to my W-2. Like, what are we doing? And we didn't make any money. I mean, 15 grand, we're not in this business to make that kind of money, right? We're in this business to actually get really nice returns and create a different life for ourselves and our family. But the lessons that we learned are worth more than any monetary value can be placed on them because it perpetuated what we were doing, right? We now know you can't make certain things. You always have to do this, verify that, check that. So invaluable lessons. And that's why, dude, it was the hardest, 9 months?
Yeah, we were in it for 9 months. So it was 9 months, a ton of lessons. We got like a master's or doctorate. I feel like that was like our education, right? It was, we took action and we learned along the way, right? So the biggest thing is like, if you buy it right, you can do that, right? So if you run your numbers correctly, then you're gonna be all right. Like, take massive action, get out there and do it. You're not gonna know what you can or cannot do until you're in it. So
Yeah. And luckily, you know, we're surrounded by a community just like this one, where you can ask questions when you're in a situation. You can go to somebody and you can ask questions and don't feel like you can't. That's all in your head. So, I mean, that's one of the biggest things I want to stress is like, reach out when you don't know something. It's because you're not asking the right questions, and don't feel shame or stupid because you don't know something. Ask questions. When in doubt, pull the dang permit. Pull the permits. When in doubt, pull the permits, because it's easier to pull a permit when you didn't need it than it is to try and do an after the fact permit with violations. With contractors, verify. Do your due diligence, whether it's a referral or not. Verify. And luckily, you know, we had a lot of documentation in place that helped us navigate that situation and hold him accountable. But verify and have a lot of things in writing. So that's another takeaway. And tap into your community that you're surrounding yourself with, because you never know who's out there and who has been through it before, and they can genuinely help you. So that's our first deal, and it was a nightmare.
Oh man, you guys, if that wasn't a nightmare, man, I don't know what is. But that was an awesome start, especially on your first ever flip, man. I don't think I could have persevered through that. But so, would you guys say the persistence and consistent action taking is what got you guys through it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we were able to revert back to understanding really why we got started. And I mean, like I said, Tristyn was saying, we had long nights just like sitting down and really mulling it over. And luckily, we're in this business together. And so we have somebody to talk to, right? And let all of that stuff out at night. And so
yeah, but the hardest part is when you're both have no idea what the hell you're doing and you can't calm each other down and you're both freaking out. but I mean, I mean, definitely happy that we went through it together. But like I said, we wouldn't have changed it for the world. Like, looking back on it now, it was the hardest 9 months, but it makes everything now so much easier.
Yeah, and I think we also talked to each other after, and we're like, if we had a deal, right? And everything went super smooth. We never pulled permits on it. The foundation never had those issues, and it just went smooth. And we made a ton of money on our first deal. I feel like we would have had some false sense of what it really truly is.
Can be
right.
Right.
And I'm glad that we took a lot of hard knocks in the first year. And some expensive lessons, but I feel like that set us up for success. Like it so helped those beginnings. And I'm not saying go out there and try and mess everything up, but just to have like a good understanding about, you know, all of the things that could potentially come up. We just had a really quick learning curve. That's all it comes down to.
Yeah, really quick learning curve.
Absolutely. We never fail, right? We just learn from what the mistakes we made and move forward, right?
Yes.
Nice, you guys. So man, there's a lot of questions in the chat, but we'll save them for later. We are sharing tonight's presentation with Zasha. So to get everybody up to speed with Zasha. Zasha she's a rock star. She lives on the island of Maui. She grew up in a low income housing, raised by a single mother, and left the islands to go to college in California on a full financial scholarship, right? So like the most of us, we go to college, right? So she received a Bachelor of Arts in Engineering moved back to Maui as a civil engineer, and she worked that for 10 years. But something just wasn't right. As Zasha, she realized she didn't want to work for the rest of her life, so she dabbled into real estate a little bit. She started out with flipping while working her full-time job. Then she was able to quit in 2020 when the rental income replaced her W-2. So now she currently has 6 renovations going and 9 rentals on Maui. Oh man, I think that's a nightmare all in its own right there. She uses creative strategies and partnerships to make deals work in a very expensive market. She's also a wife and mom to 2 beautiful kids. Her husband owns his own plumbing business as well on Maui. So, Zasha, how's it going, girl? I know you just had a little horror story right before this, so thank you for jumping on.
Hey, Taurus, we commit. When we commit, we commit. Yeah, so thank you, Gilbert. That was such a good introduction, my bio. I just had a little, just to keep everybody up to speed. I am at our office right now. Just had a little incident. My mom's car broke down, and it just reminded me why we do what we do, because I now have the flexibility to be there for her and help her out, even though it is strain. But yeah, so I guess perseverance is a big word tonight about, Kamohai and Tristyn's experience. My experience starting out was I didn't know anything about investing. I was an engineer, and I was like, hey, there's got to be more to this. Sorry, a lot going on tonight. But I always thought, hey, there has to be more to this. Grew up, raised on Maui, wanted to always make a living for myself, and was always trying to figure out ways that I could level up or get to that place, or like, I'm local, but how do I make this work? And so after being in my career for so long, I was like, okay, they say, when you grow up, like, you got to be an engineer, you got to be a doctor, you got to be, there's all this sort of careers that will essentially be high earners. And for me, that was like, that came into engineering. And once I started in my job, I was like, man, I've been in this for 10 years. I'm not making as much as I thought. And so after that, I looked into investing and just kind of jumped into it. Like, I never took any courses, was just like, yo, let's try to do a flip. Let's try a rental. And my husband owned his own company. I was an engineer. So we had pretty good incomes. It wasn't a lot, but it was definitely, a good amount. So we said, okay, we can take a little bit of risk. We did have 2 kids at the time too. So I just want to remind everybody, where we're at in that position in our life, or where we're at was like, we did have 2 kids already. I was married, and so I had to be a little bit more reserved. So we started off small. We did 2 condos, one as a rental, one as a flip, just to try it out, and everything kind of worked out. And so after I did my first flip, I made, a little over 100,000. And being an engineer, 10 years in the career, being a project manager, managing, underground utility, drainage, water, sewer of shopping malls and hotels. And I was only getting paid $70,000 a year. It kind of was like, ding, it's a little light bulb. So I bought a couple, and then I got into multifamily last year in Halimaile. And that's where the horror story comes in. Is definitely, growing up in Hawaii, you get the like jujus, right? So I grew up in affordable housing. One time we lived in this one unit where my mom was always like, leave the front door open. I was like, why? And she's like, because our back door is open. I was like, what does that mean? She's like, you got to have, the night marchers, they got to have there's a window, right? Like, they got to have an in and they got to have an out. We block the front door. They can't get out the back door. I was like, what the hell is that? So when we bought our first multifamily, one of the painters, I said, you know, we fixed it up and everything. When you're going through all that construction, there's a lot of noise. But once the drywallers come in, the painting, not really too much noise. They're just painting it up. So one guy came in, he left. Another guy came in, he left. And I told, you know, the guy who was in charge of the company, I said, hey, all your painters are leaving. What's going on? And he said, brah, I don't know, but Hali'i is giving them the spooks. I was like, okay, well, what does that mean? He's like, no, they're hearing kids play inside and there's nobody living there right now. You know, it's empty. And I was like, okay, well, can you work over there? Like, we got to keep this moving. Like, how do I got to paint? And so he went to work there and he's like, brah, Zash, I don't know. There's like, you got to bless this house even before it's finished. Like, I don't know what's going on in here. And so it was a multifamily. So we were working unit by unit. So when we got to the second unit, the drywaller, he's like, oh, there's mold in this wall. He cut it out. And then there was like bones that fell out of the wall. And I was like, what the hell is that? I wasn't there at the time, but he was like, bro, there's bones. I'm fucking out. And sorry, Kalamai. But because the bones fell out, I was like, okay, what is that? And by the time I got there, my husband got there, he's like, oh, it's just a dog or like a bird or like some kind of animal. I don't know how the hell they built it, but there was just something in there that was animal remains in the wall. So that was kind of weird. And then, but we just kept moving along. And then after it is done, then we blessed it. But it was like, you know, we just kept losing tradesmen along the way. And we wondered, okay, why is this? And we essentially, initially, we wanted to sell it. We put it on the market, but it was the beginning of 2020. And we're like, okay, we got it under contract. But then March happened, right? March and April. And so our initial guy was going to buy it cash. And then he left, his doctor's office closed. We had a backup offer and everybody's just unstable. So that was our little horror story from that. We did essentially, you know, now it's rented out. We have, you know, a few HUD people, but just a few locals. So we feel good. We bless the house. Everything is all good since then. Hallelujah. Yeah, that was a major horror story recently from that. And thank God it's done.
And that was a really, really scary one. I would have ran out too.
No, but it was like
Guarantee.
multiple trades. Once you start losing, like, you know, when it's at the end, right? It's the end. I was like, Frank, I'm gonna paint this house myself, and like, I don't know if I would go like without my I'm not wearing my cross right now, but you know, like, go some prepared.
So would you want to say that's like a reverse eviction where they were already evicting people, right?
No.
Right?
Yeah. Yes.
So yeah, I want to bring to light too. I know we were talking a little bit prior to this, but did you have an eviction story also to share with people in here?
Yeah. So recently, actually, I think September, the end of September, I don't know, I was getting weird vibes from one of my other rentals, and the guy was like, hey, you know, I can't afford rent this next month. What can I do? And I said, oh, you know, with all of my renters, I tell them there's Catholic Charities, you know, I accept HUD. You want to apply for MEO, like it's Maui Economic Opportunities or something. They give you assistance with your rental. So I always make sure to tell my renters about it. And so he's like, oh no, I don't want to do any of that. I was like, well, I can't apply for you, so I don't know how you expect me to help you. And so he's like, okay, yeah, like I'll get it together. So that month comes, he's like, oh, you know, he doesn't come through with everything. And I'm like, hey, you got to be out by this weekend. You know, I'll be there with my husband on Saturday. I give him the 48 hours notice of inspection. And he changes the locks. So changed the locks. I was like, okay, now I don't know what to do, right? Because we're in the middle, you know, with COVID guidelines and all this kind of stuff. I just hired a eviction company to kind of handle all the paperwork. And what I found out was, because from my understanding from being a landlord, you know, the past couple of years was, okay, you got to give them 10 days notice to vacate. And then from there on, you legally have the right to enter the property and to pursue the eviction process. But however, in, I think it was August, Hawaii, just for Hawaii, they changed the laws to where now you got to give them 15 days. And then you also have to offer mediation services. So you have to give a company name of a mediation service and then also their contact information. The mediation service has to contact the renters or tenants, and then there's like this whole other avenue that I wasn't even aware of before. So FYI, check with your latest state regulations on what the newest laws are, because I had no idea about that. And then we did a 48 hours to inspect, and said if they didn't have the keys, then we had the right to enter. Because initially I was like, shoot, how are they changing the locks to my own house and I don't have the right, to call a locksmith to open the door? And you literally don't have that right in Hawaii. You got to do the notice thing and jump through a lot of hoops. And so I did that, but luckily they left. And when I got in the unit, there was like holes in the wall. There was like broken glass, like they broke the window. It was a crazy situation. And just a lot, like I said before, like from the last house. And I feel like this is what we deal with as solution seekers, or like, there's people are dealing with issues right in the beginning. And especially with sellers, they're dealing with a lot of issues and emotions. And it all compiles to when you buy the property, it's kind of all left there. And even when you get left with a renter who is in, even for them, they're going through a lot of stuff, or they're in distress, they leave all that bundle of energy and spirit in wherever they're living. And so even we had to just kind of bless it and just kind of put positive vibes. I don't know maybe it's a what you think. Like I aired out the windows for like a week, like I just left everything open so I could kind of like clear it. But yeah, you can definitely, I feel, especially like Halloween's coming up, but like spirits are definitely around. And when people have this negative energy, it kind of stays in that area. But yeah, luckily that's out. We're getting a new tenant in. Like just today, I did the walkthrough with a HUD tenant. It's a single mom. She really is just appreciative of the place. And I'm thinking, as thankfully that for me, I'm a very hands-on landlord. And even when I flip homes, like I'm super hands-on, because I just believe in passing that on to the next people. And if I can be a part of the process, I don't know. It's just an amazing feeling to know that you are uplifting other people and taking a situation that might be a little spooky and turning it into like a whole nother life of its own.
Right. So cool. Awesome stories there, and awesome horror stories, Zash. From bones to children, children voices, and then going through that eviction process, man. But like Tristyn and Kamohai, you persevered, stayed consistent, right? Would you have changed it?
No.
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 Right.
We got this.
There you go. Like everyone says, the network that you're in, right, keeps you up, and it keeps you going, right? So yeah. Brandon, you got anything you wanted to share here?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, some crazy stories. Thank you guys, all of you guys, for sharing. So since we got some time for some questions, I think that would be a good time to go into that. And Mark, I see you got your hands up. Did you want to jump off a mute? Did you have a question for Zasha? No? Okay, no problem. I know we had some questions earlier for Tristyn and Kamohai that were in the chat. So this is from Travis, and he asked, would you suggest not to invest in Post and Peer?
I would suggest to absolutely invest in post and pier. I feel like, I mean, majority of older homes in Hawaii are post and pier and single wall construction. So there's really no way to eliminate that. If you're trying to, do deals in Hawaii, you're gonna they're super common and you're gonna come across them. I feel like for us, it was more of a soil situation versus obviously the foundation was really, really bad. And the first solution we were going to do would have worked. But the soil just made things a little bit more difficult. So I think that was a specific situation, and we would absolutely do post and pier again. And we have done several. So
yeah,
yes.
I think that even when you are kind of looking at it, there are tons of advantages to working with a post and pier foundation. I mean, you can get under the house easily. You can run all your plumbing, your electrical without like cutting into a slab. You can move things around. So post and pier, there's actually a lot of advantages. I actually love working on post and pier houses. Mm-hmm. So I think the main point for us is exactly what Tristyn shared. It's we should pay more attention when we're working with this specific soil. So if we did get another house like that and we were on adobe, we would make sure that we had the right amount budgeted in the beginning and ran our numbers with that in mind. But definitely would not shy away, not at all.
Awesome. Thank you. And, so this property was your first ever, right? The first project. So Jeremy asked, how do you get on board with your other half? Or, you guys are just jumping into it. You mentioned you left your W-2. Do you have any tips, or how did that go working with a spouse?
You just drag them.
We're still working on it. But I mean, it's always a work in progress. But honestly, my wife, like in the intro, like I started a company with my brother. We were always kind of entrepreneurial. But my wife dragged me into real estate, and she pulled me along, and I'm so blessed that she did do that, because she really allowed me to find a release or an outlet, right? Like our family is really big with being able to help people, and we also have that kind of a background. So we get the best of both worlds, man. We get to truly solve problems and help people while making a living that we can pass on to our kids, and a good living. So she dragged me in, and now that we're in it, we're still figuring it out. Like there's the good days and the bad days. Yeah. But one thing that really helps, and you can talk about roles.
Yeah, I think the first year we were both trying to do everything, and that's really, really hard on a business relationship, and then on top of marriage when you're trying to do the same thing and you're just butting heads. So it really helped us is when we were like, okay, well, you just do acquisitions and I'll just do like renovation and design, and let's try and stay in our roles because we're both have the same goals in mind. So that really helps in our business relationship, so we don't fight in our personal relationship. Another thing that really helps us is we like to have fun together, like do things like go play pickleball, like do things outside of your business together that you remember that you're friends and you like each other and you're having fun. So that's really important. And I think before we dove deep and like really focused on our business, we took Steve Rosenberg's 60-day challenge, and I attribute a lot to him and I getting aligned and on the same page to his challenge, because it makes you, and I think Sheena and Chris, Zasha, that's where we met a lot of the people that we hold close to us now, because it makes you think about your life and where you want to be in, 5, 10, 20 years, and why you're choosing investing. And it helps you guys go separately, figure it out, and then actually come together and figure it out. And I attribute to us being aligned to that challenge. So I would tell anybody to hit up Steve Rosenberg and check out his challenge. If he's still doing it, I'm not really sure, but he has great content, and that is what really helped he and I get on the same page and push forward in what we were trying to do.
Awesome. Good stuff.
Awesome.
Thank you. Sorry, Gil, you had a question?
No, I just want to say mindset, right? I know Chris has told me about Steve Rosenberg, and mindset is key in this business, right? You guys, we all know that we got to be strong up here to get it going, because we got to be half crazy to be doing this, right? We jumping into this. Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
There's another question about the Alan Kahanu did say he wanted to ask, did the inspection identify the soil as a problem, which you
No.
could have walked away from?
Not your original inspection, like when you go to buy the property and you do actually like a traditional buyer's inspection, it didn't identify the soil as being the type that it was. It just said, hey, your foundation is really jacked and you have to fix it.
Yeah, there was definitely foundation issues brought up in the inspection, but I honestly don't think, aside from us getting a structural engineer in there in the very beginning, that we would have caught the soil thing early on. But I mean, we could have done that, you know what I mean? So yeah, just the regular inspection that you would do, homeowners inspection, it'll tell you if the foundation needs work, but they didn't dig into exactly what kind of soil it was.
Was there water in the soil? Somebody had asked.
It retains water. So I don't really,
there wasn't any when we purchased, there wasn't. But yeah, I mean, there was obviously a ton of movement in the house. Like when we walked in the house the next day, because at nighttime we couldn't really tell. Yeah, but the next day, like we were walking like on a wave almost, and one whole side of the house wasn't even touching. The posts weren't touching the pier; they were floating. And so we knew that there was issues, but and honestly, you know, I do feel like a more seasoned contractor would have picked that up like this.
Yeah.
Like, okay, this is what we're working with here. This is what we're going to have to do. But like I said, our contractor, we found out later, right? It was his very first full remodel on a house. And he wasn't even licensed. He was borrowing somebody's license. So.
Right. And yeah, there wasn't proper drainage on the house either, Tony. There was zero. It was literally draining underneath the house in addition to the type of soil. So it was just a complete.
Yeah, that's literally why.
Nightmare.
That's why there was so much. There was no good drainage. We actually had to put French drains in on both sides. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's so funny because I have a similar story with my GC, my first GC. That was my job, was his first major rehab. He didn't necessarily have a license. But yeah, it's just one of the things you go through in real estate.
So you feel our pain. You get it.
Yeah. And my floors were wavy too. The only thing is I didn't get to walk it because it's out in the Midwest, but you know, there's no way I would have known. But yeah, having a good GC on your team is definitely key, because yeah, you got to trust them. They got to trust you. And yeah, so that's super, super key. Another, Tony also asked, well, about permits. So you guys mentioned always pull permits. Can you kind of just share, you know, what some of those items might be that you want to pull permits on? And you guys also mentioned DPP. So for some people that don't know what DPP stands for, can you just briefly share what that is?
Yeah, DPP is Department of Planning and Permitting. So that's where you have to go when you're just doing any renovation on a house. That's where you get your permits. And then you can talk about like the ones you pull online versus like the ones that you actually have to get drawings for.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were misinformed in the beginning about like the like times when you need to pull permits, right? Like it's always a tricky situation. You'll hear from some people, if you're not moving anything around structurally, you're leaving the original footprint, you don't necessarily need to pull permits. And then other people will say pull permits all the time. And then, yeah, so it was definitely a learning experience for us. But what we have come to find is that even if you're not doing structural improvements, anything over a certain dollar amount, which I mean is if we're doing renovations, we're going to need a permit on it, right? And what we also came to find out is that there is an ability to pull repair permits online very easily and quickly. I know one big thing with a lot of people is that they're worried about how long the permit process is going to take, right? And yes, you have to take that into consideration. But whenever you're adding square footage or doing any kind of alteration, that is when you're going to have to account for, a little longer time period for permits. But the repair permit's super easy to pull. You can do it online and get them very quickly. And at least you're covered in that aspect. And we would always say, yes, pull.
Yeah.
Stuff. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. All right. I think. Oh, well, could you, so Jeremy asked, how you guys got started. Could you guys just briefly share, with that being your first property or your first rehab, yeah, how did you guys get started with real estate?
Yeah, totally. So both of our parents, both sides of our families have histories of being in real estate or involved in real estate in some capacity. My dad was a realtor when he was a young buck, and then his parents, his mom actually, and my great grandfather, had a lot of real estate in Hawaii, and he ended up selling a lot of it. But I saw it change their lives, meaning like they were given houses and they were able to really build their life from the power of real estate, from and through the power of real estate. But none of them, and then so that perpetuated into seeing my dad do that and have some rentals and have commercial property. And then his dad worked on the corporate side of real estate through the Harriet and Jeanette Weinberg Foundation, and handling like a lot of their commercial property. So, but neither of our parents took it to the next level of actually making it an active business and a full-time business, which is what Kamohai and I really wanted to do. So I always wanted to be in real estate, had no idea how to do it. And I saw a commercial for Fortune Builders just on a random evening, weekend, whatever, sitting on, I was like, we're going to this. And so of course they upsell, you go to the free one, then you go to the 3-day one. And then they're like, hey, pay me a lot of money and you can join the mentorship. And we ended up not paying tons of money. We did, I don't know, like a 6-month program through them. And they really are good at teaching you how to fix and flip. And that's how we got started. And the rest is kind of history. But it wasn't until we joined another mentorship through Pace Morby and the Sub 2 community that it really taught us how to make it an actual business and not a side hobby. So that was a game changer for us. But that's how we got started in real estate, was watching our family be involved in it and then seeing a commercial on TV and be like, we have to do this. It was just like a no-brainer. Like it was a calling. I need to know how to do this. So yeah.
Cool. Awesome. And I have a question for you guys, and I want to ask this to Zasha as well as we start to wrap things up. You guys shared some really great points and good takeaways, right? I heard pulling permits, verify your GC, make sure you have things in writing, and leverage your community. Is there any, I guess, one last big takeaway that you have from this particular horror story, or just in general, to encourage another investor, maybe just starting out, or might be going through their own horror story themselves?
Yes, actually, now that you say that, we could have bird our first flip. We could have held on to it, rented it out, and figured out how to refinance it. There was enough margin in there to do that. instead of pay a boatload of interest and sit on the market and almost break even. So I think the importance of having multiple exit strategies and not having your blinders on to only having one thing that you're going to do with the property was a big, huge lesson for me personally, because hindsight's always 2020. And I know for a fact I could have rented that out to a HUD person, or gotten a very decent market rent for it, and it would have broken even or even cash flowed a little bit, but it would have been I would have owned real estate in Hawaii in a great location. I would have actually probably had equity that, in the deal, because we bought it so good. So have multiple exit strategies, run deals and numbers to be a long-term rental, a short-term rental, flip, whatever you're going to do. If it works more than one way, it's probably a good deal.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Having multiple exit strategies. Thank you guys for that. And Zasha, I know you're going through something right now at the moment. Are you still there? And if
still here, can you hear me?
Oh, okay. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Pulled over on the side of the road.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know if my car has any lighting, but okay. So definitely, I wish I would have partnered or asked for help earlier on. I thought that I had to figure everything out myself, and that is dependent on leveraging, other people's money, leveraging other people's knowledge, and also just meeting other like-minded people that are on the same page as you, because you are who you surround yourself with. And if you're around people who don't have the same beliefs as you, or not the same vision as you, you can be held down or held back because of self-limiting beliefs. But you guys are in the right group right now, where people believe in you, they're there to help, and don't be scared to ask for help. And I think that's one thing I wish I would have been aware of earlier on.
Good stuff. Thank you, Zasha. Thank you. Right on. All right. So as we kind of get close to the top of the hour, I'll start wrapping things up. Unless Gilbert, you had any final things to say?
No, once again, thank you, Tristyn, Kamohai, and Zasha for presenting tonight. There are some great stories there. Can't wait to hear more. Thank you very much. And yeah.
Cool.
Back to you, Brendan.
Yeah, no, Tristyn, Kamohai, Zasha, thank you guys for spending your time here with us and sharing your horror stories. If you guys the audience, if you guys have any more questions and you wanted to follow up with them, I'm going to throw their contact info in the chat in case you didn't see it on their in their names. But there's their Instagram and TikTok for Tristyn and Kamohai, and Instagram for Zasha. So thank you again, guys. Good takeaways, right? They're leveraging the network, asking for help. Don't be afraid or ashamed. Real estate is more so a relationship business more than it is about real actual property. So really good stuff. As I start to close us out, next month is November. So I believe we'll be meeting the week before Thanksgiving. So normally we meet on the last Wednesday. Since that's Thanksgiving week, I believe we'll be meeting the week right before that. To get actual up-to-date information, get onto our email list. That way you know exactly when our meetup is going to take place. And also, if you didn't already, fill out the meetup roster. So I know a couple of people filled that out already. That's great. If you want to get connected to everybody that's on here right now to share what you have to offer, or if, like Zasha was saying, don't be afraid to ask for help. You can ask for help in that roster. Go ahead and fill that out. I'll throw that link again in the chat for you guys to take a look at. And then also, don't forget to like and join our Facebook group and page. And also get onto the email list, westsiderealestatemeetup@gmail.com. So outside of that, please stick around. We're going to jump into breakout rooms in a short moment. I hope you guys have a good night. On behalf of myself, Young, who is on the road right now, and Gilbert for joining me this evening to be my co-host, and WN. Thank you guys for being here, and hope you guys have a good month and a good night. So we'll see you all later. Okay.